I don't know. I think this might be best if I just go into this one.
Okay.
And then
yeah, give me your favorite.
Yeah. So this one is called Steve and Steven Missing Episode.
Well, that's weird.
I know. Well, we weren't the first, right? This is from somebody who watched the missing episode that was on the SD card that's now broken. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So, listening to podcasts is my favorite pastime. I don't have a lucrative hobby, and I never learned any skills, so media consumption has been my go-to. The only skill... Yeah.
Are you taking shots at me? I have no skills, and I just consume.
You don't consume. You produce with me. We produce this show.
Yeah, we produce it together. Okay, go on. I'm not going to interrupt again.
The only skill I would say that I've learned is finding new podcasts before they blow up. This is where I found Steven, which isn't one of those cases. I first found their YouTube channel with my girlfriend. For my girlfriend, think of a cross between Asuka from Neon Genesis Evangelion and Misty from Pokemon, but just add 200 pounds to her. When one night we were trying to find content on one of our favorite bands, The Garden, I was intrigued that two people would share the same enthusiasm for a band as us, even though my girlfriend cried when hearing Steve's take on MGMT. I hesitantly decided to subscribe. To be honest, I had completely forgotten about their channel until I saw their newest video uploaded at 3 a.m., simply titled Corrupted... Oh my gosh. CORRUPTEDSnSFile.MP4ErrorDONOTWATCH.MOV. I knew the two often titled their videos with strange names, so I didn't think anything of it. The episode started out normally, the two simply conversing. They were talking about their favorite Halloween costumes as a kid, and pumpkins. And then Steve said something about the batteries getting low on the recorder, so there was a long pause, and the screen went to black. When they came back, there was something slightly off about the logo that's normally in the background. Oh, geez. Usually Steve and Steven are smirking, at least their icons are. This time, their grins were slightly larger, and they were both showing their teeth. The two were laughing more than usual, almost like they were high on marijuana. I would know this because I've tried pot. Steve started to bring up his disdain for Jimmy Fallon. What's the deal with him anyway? He's all like, hey! The impression sounded nothing like Jimmy Fallon, but Steven burst out with laughter. Steve also followed with him. They were uncontrollably laughing for a full 30 seconds, and then they went silent. Folks, we're recording this over the entire night, so we're gonna take a quick break, said Steve. The screen went to black again. When they came back, the logo was back to normal. They started talking about their childhood and discussing their favorite games. Steven talked about how he used to love playing Spyro with his younger sister until one night she went for a walk and never came back. Steven began sobbing. It just got louder and louder. Steve tried to calm him down and insisted on stopping the recording, which Steven demanded that they keep rolling for content's sake. During this part in the podcast, the icons of Steve and Steven's heads would blink, and I would swear their eyes would look realistic and even bloodshot. The screen shortly went to black again. When they came back, their head icons were gone, and there was just the background. I turned my volume up all the way, and you could hear what sounded like arguing in the background. There was a loud thud. Once again, the screen went to black. Okay, it's almost over. So when they came back, Steven's eyes went from cartoon black to hyper-realistic bloodshot eyes like I'd seen before. The two were quickly mumbling. The segment felt like it lasted at least 40 minutes, and I couldn't make out what was being said the entire time, and they were both just talking over each other. Eventually, the screen went to black. When we came back, Steven was maniacally crying, "No, Steve, no!" And the screen went to black again, and when it came back, there was a gruesome depiction of what looked like the real Steve himself. Not Blue's Clues Cancer Steve, the real one, but it looked like someone had shot him and beat him to death. His severed head was just a mushy pulp. you could hear Steven laughing. The grin on his face was so wide that his mouth started to tear and bleed. He turned to the screen, and I swear he looked into my soul. "You're next," he said to my computer screen, and then my computer crashed and turned off. It was completely broken. I tried to turn it back on, but it did not turn back on. In the corner of the room, though, I heard a laugh, and that sounded exactly like Steven's before my computer died.
Somebody sent that into you?
Yeah, a viewer, right? So they listened to that episode. I can't believe they did.
Yeah, I thought we deleted. I
know.
But also, still, that's how we got you, because the original Steve is dead.
Yes, that's what happened to the original Steve.
So that's actually 100% true, and we do leave it .mov or .mp4 or whatever that was.
But I did both of them. I included both of them.
Oh, okay, good.
That was
compatible with both players.
Exactly.
The MP4 player. Okay.
I just like re-listened to this is behind the scenes now, the Mario 64 haunted copy, and just like the crazy thing about that, it's just like people who have played like Silent Hill and they've watched some horror movies and they're just trying to like recall what they have seen, but they're recalling so many things and they're just like trying to put it into one thing. So it was like at one point Mario was hanging from a noose, but his noose was actually his tongue wrapped around his entire body, and his eyes were sewn shut and his mouth was sewn shut, but he was still smiling and laughing. And it's like, okay, my question is, when we're seeing all this stuff in the Mario 64 game, supposedly, is it like the 64 graphics or is it like the high res graphics? You know, if so, how is that even possible? You know what I mean? There's just too many. They just like to take something and like turn it like all the way up. Like the Jeff the Killer. Do you remember Jeff the Killer? It's not enough that this kid gets bullied and like, you know.
Jeff the Killer. That is ringing a bell, but it's like,
if you look it up, you'll probably know. But
ever.
It's like the reason Jeff the Killer is the way he is because he wasn't just bullied. Some kids poured bleach on him and then they lit him on fire and then they ripped his eyelids out and then he carved a smile into his face. So they just like, you know, they have to like try to take it up as highly as they can, which is why the pictures started getting more gruesome, was at least my thought. And then I feel like in the Mario one, the guy really went out of his way to mention that he had a girlfriend. So I thought that was funny to try to like include that as well. Yeah, I don't know.